Hit play now. Did Washington bury a hero for a rookie nitrogen monoxide one saw coming? The house is on fire. A 7th-round RB forced the hometown icon to San Francisco. And the return is a 6th-round missile already whistling in the air. But red alert. A Dallas Shark just dropped the confession that will rock the NFC. Daniels is Mahomes with legs. Shouts the most hated defender while burning his own locker room. This is not a drill. The era of maybe next year is over. Are you going to keep watching from the stands while they rebuild the Burgundy and Gold Legion? Subscribe or stay eating crumbs from those coming for the title. Like now, if you believe this year, the food tastes like playoffs. I have to ask, how many of you knew the name Bill Krosky Merritt a week ago? Because I think not even 5% of our fan base knew who this kid was. And now this 7th-round rookie, pick number 245, just sent Brian Robinson straight to San Francisco. But let's start from the beginning of this incredible story, because this guy's college career is a roller coaster straight out of a Hollywood movie. Bill Krosky Merritt began his college career at Alabama State, a historically black university where he first showed he had something special. At Alabama State, this kid ran for impressive numbers, showcasing that combination of vision, patience, and explosiveness that is now driving Washington fans crazy. After making noise at Alabama State, Krosky Merritt decided to transfer to New Mexico, seeking more exposure in a more competitive conference. And let me tell you, at New Mexico, he really started to catch the scouts' attention. His numbers there were spectacular. Explosive runs, touchdown after touchdown, and that unique ability to find gaps where other running backs only see a wall of defenders. But here's where the story gets truly interesting. After 2 solid seasons, Krosky Merritt decided to take the big leap and transferred to Arizona for the 2024 season. This was his chance to shine in a Power 5 conference, to show he could compete against the best defenders. In college football, he was all set for an explosive season that would put him on the NFL draft map. But then the hardest blow of his career arrived. Eligibility issues kept him out of action for almost the entire season. Imagine this guy's frustration, preparing for his most important year, only to be forced to sit in the stands watching his NFL dreams seem to slip away with each game he missed. However, and here's where Bill Krosky Merritt's character shows. When he finally had his chance to play that single game with Arizona, he didn't waste it. In his only appearance with the Wildcats, he rushed for 106 yards and scored a touchdown. One game, and he was already reminding everyone why he was so sought after as a transfer. But how is it possible that a guy who played just 1 game at Arizona last year is causing such a stir? I'll tell you why. Because he has that vision that can't be taught. Look, I've seen a lot of running backs in my life, but when I saw that touchdown run against Cincinnati on Monday night, I'm telling you, it gave me chills. That play against Cincinnati wasn't just a touchdown run. It was a demonstration of why the NFL's most seasoned scouts say that vision is the most important quality in a running back, and it's something that simply can't be taught. Krosky Merritt didn't just see the gap, he anticipated where the gap would be before his blockers finished creating the space. That patience, that ability to wait for the exact moment, and then explode with otherworldly speed. That's what separates good running backs from great ones. What fascinates me about this story is how a player who practically had no media exposure during the draft process is now making national headlines. When it came time for the pro day, Krosky Merritt put up solid numbers, but nothing spectacular. His times were good. His strength was impressive for his size, but it wasn't enough to create the buzz he needed. The East-West Shrine Bowl was another chance to shine, and although he had decent performances, he still failed to capture mainstream media attention. Draft analysts barely mentioned his name, and when they did, it was like a footnote. A player to watch, but never as a serious prospect. That's why he fell to pick 245. Practically in the draft's final moments. Commanders picked him when it already seemed like the draft was over for most fans. I remember when his name was announced, I had to Google who this kid was. And now look where we are. This kid, standing 5 feet 11 inches, 208 pounds, does not have a physique that will impress you at first glance. He's not the kind of runner who will intimidate linebackers with his size, like a Derrick Henry or a Nick Chubb. But what he has is something far more valuable, that perfect combination of functional strength and explosiveness that lets him break initial tackles and then accelerate to the second level of defense. Krosky Merritt's strength isn't the brute force you see in the gym. It's that practical strength, that ability to keep balance when a safety hits him in the legs, to push through the initial contact and keep running. And when he finds open space, his acceleration is simply electrifying. But let's talk about what really matters, his field vision. I have been watching football for decades, and I can tell you that field vision is probably the hardest skill to evaluate in a running back prospect. You can measure speed, you can measure strength, but vision requires actual game time to be adequately evaluated. What we saw in that run against Cincinnati was a clinic of vision and patience. Krosky Merritt took the ball, and instead of immediately attacking the available gap, he had the patience to let his blockers develop the play. He waited that extra fraction of a second that allowed him to see how the defense committed, and then he hit the right gap with an explosiveness that left Cincinnati's defenders eating dust. And you know what's most impressive about all this? That Krosky Merritt is doing all this as a 7th-round rookie who basically had no real preparation time against elite competition in his last college year. Most running backs need time to adjust to NFL speed, to learn to read professional defenses, to develop the confidence needed to make split-second decisions. But this kid arrived, and from day one of training camp was proving that he belonged at this level. Reporters covering the team started taking notice when they saw that Krosky Merritt was not only competing with the established running backs, but was outperforming them in specific situations. He was a 0-star prospect coming out of high school, and that tells me a lot about his mentality and his work ethic. This is a kid who has had to earn every opportunity he's gotten in his life. No one handed him anything. No one actively recruited him. And he had to build his reputation from scratch at each stop in his career. That underdog mentality is exactly what we need in Washington. We have a culture being built around players who have something to prove, and Krosky Merritt perfectly fits that mold. Now, I believe Cliff Kingsbury is already cooking up special plays for this guy. Imagine the options we're going to have with Jaden Daniels and Bill Krosky Merritt in the same backfield. Austin Eckler already turned 30, and while he's still a solid player, he doesn't have that youthful explosiveness that can change a game in a single play. Chris Rodriguez is more for short yardage and goal line situations, but this rookie has that game-changer explosiveness we need. Kingsbury is known for his offensive creativity, for finding unique ways to put his playmakers in positions to succeed. With Daniels as a dual-threat quarterback, and now Krosky Merritt showing his backfield versatility, the possibilities are endless. And you know what's the craziest part of all this? That if you already have him on your fantasy teams, you're going to look like geniuses. Because I'm telling you, this kid is going to be a huge surprise this season. Those smart enough to pick him in the closing rounds of their draft, or better yet, those who grab him as a free agent after the draft, are going to have a massive advantage over their competition. In fantasy football, these are the kinds of discoveries that win championships. A rookie running back that suddenly becomes the starter on a team with an explosive offense. That's pure gold in terms of fantasy value. What impresses me is how a player who basically had no media exposure is making such an impact that he forced the organization to trade away our established running back. That speaks to the level of talent we're seeing in practices, but it also speaks to the coaching staff's confidence in this kid. Dan Quinn and his team aren't the type of coaches who make rash decisions. If they decided it was time to move on from Robinson and give the keys to the backfield to a 7th-round rookie, it's because they saw something truly special in practices and preseason games. Speaking of Brian Robinson, I have to be honest with you. This trade hurt a bit. Not because Robinson was irreplaceable, but because I really liked what he brought to the team. But at the end of the day, business is business. And if Washington decided it was time to move on, it's because they saw something special in that rookie to fully understand the impact of this trade. We need to remember who Brian Robinson was to this franchise. When the Commanders picked him in the third round of the 2022 draft, expectations were moderate. Robinson came from Alabama with a solid but not spectacular reputation. He was the kind of running back you know will give you consistent yards, who will fight for every down, but who probably won't change games on his own. What no one expected was the trial by fire Robinson would face before even stepping on the professional field. In August 2022, Robinson was the victim of an attempted robbery in downtown Washington, D.C., where he was shot twice in the legs. For a moment, not only was his NFL career in danger, but his life itself. But the way Robinson handled that traumatic situation completely defined who he was as a person and as a player. Instead of succumbing to fear or self-pity, Robinson focused entirely on his recovery. He worked with doctors, followed every rehabilitation instruction to the letter, and maintained a positive mindset that inspired the entire team. When he finally could return to the field, Robinson not only proved he could play at the same level as before the incident, but in many ways became an even more determined and focused player. His story of survival and return became an inspiration not just for his teammates, but for the entire Washington community. In his career with the Commanders, Robinson rushed for 2,329 yards and 15 touchdowns in 41 games. Those numbers alone are respectable, but they don't tell the whole story. Robinson was the kind of runner you could count on to gain tough yards in third and short situations. He was the guy who would fight for extra yards on every carry, who would never go down easy. He had also caught 65 passes for 587 yards and 5 more touchdowns, showing a versatility that made him valuable in all situations. He wasn't the most dynamic receiving back in the league, but he was reliable with his hands and understood how to find open spaces on short routes. The 49ers acquired Robinson in exchange for a 6th-round pick in the 2026 draft. And here's the interesting part. Washington agreed to absorb part of the $3.4 million owed to Robinson this season. That tells me they really wanted to make room, both financially and on the roster. The fact that Washington was willing to absorb part of Robinson's salary seems very significant to me. That's not something you do unless you really need to free up cap space or you have a lot of confidence in your internal alternatives. In this case, I think it was a combination of both. Robinson, at 26 years old, is still in his prime as a running back. At that age, he should be entering his best years of production. The fact that Washington was willing to move on from him at this moment speaks to how much confidence they have in the future of Krosky Merritt and the overall direction of the backfield. But you know what seems most significant about this trade? That San Francisco, a team battling for a Super Bowl, decided Robinson could help them immediately. They're putting him alongside Christian McCaffrey, and that speaks very well of the caliber of player we're sending. The 49ers aren't a team making desperate moves. Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch have built one of the NFL's most respected organizations precisely because they're very selective with their acquisitions. If they decided Robinson was worth a 6th-round pick, it's because they see a specific role where he can contribute immediately. The situation in San Francisco is perfect for Robinson. Christian McCaffrey is obviously the workhorse back, but modern NFL requires depth in the backfield. McCaffrey has had injury issues in the past, and even when he's healthy, you need reliable guys who can give him breaks and contribute in specific situations. Robinson brings exactly what San Francisco needs: a physical runner who can handle carries between the tackles, who can be effective in short yardage situations, and who has the experience and maturity to contribute immediately without needing a long adaptation period. Moreover, Robinson's mentality fits perfectly with the 49ers culture. This is a guy who's overcome incredible adversity, who who understands what it means to work for every opportunity, and who will never be the type of player causing problems in the locker room. For Washington, this trade represents much more than just swapping a running back for a draft pick. It's a statement of faith in the youth movement happening throughout the organization. Dan Quinn and his coaching staff are betting on young players with upside rather than established veterans with limited ceilings. Now, I ask you, do you think this trade will benefit Washington or San Francisco more? Because I think both teams gain something important here. The 49ers get depth at a crucial position for a playoff run, and we free up space to give new blood a chance that potentially has a much higher ceiling. The timing of this trade is also fascinating. We're less than 2 weeks from the season's start, and making this kind of move requires a lot of confidence in what you have at home. Adam Peters and his team clearly believe they can win more with young chemistry than with established experience. What most strikes me is how this move reflects the organization's new philosophy. Under the previous regime, they probably would have kept Robinson for safety, especially considering he's a proven player who knows the system. But this new administration is showing they're willing to take calculated risks if they believe they can accelerate the development of younger talent. Also, consider the financial aspect of this trade. The $3.4 million Robinson was going to earn this season isn't an astronomical amount, but in the NFL salary cap environment, every dollar counts. Freeing that money gives Washington more flexibility for other moves during the season, or for extensions of other players. And let's not forget they got a 6th-round pick in return. Although a 6th-round pick won't change your franchise, it does give you additional ammunition to make trades during the season or for drafting. Depth in positions of need. And now we get to the news that really has me excited, but also fascinated from a strategic perspective. Micah Parsons, the star Dallas linebacker who is in the midst of a contract battle with the Cowboys, just admitted something we all already knew but never expected to hear from a divisional rival, Jaden Daniels has him worried for the next 8 years. To fully understand the weight of Parsons' statements, we have to contextualize it within what has been an absolutely epic contract war between him and the Dallas organization. This isn't a minor disagreement over a few million here or there. This is a fundamental battle over a player's worth and who holds power in that relationship. When the NFL's top 100 list came out and Daniels appeared at number 21, being Washington's highest-ranked player, Parsons couldn't remain silent. Do you know what he said? That's what you need from your quarterback and your best player. I think he has the potential to be Mahomes' caliber. I'm going to have a tough time over the next 8 years. Mahomes' caliber. Did you hear that? That's not a casual compliment you give a rival to be polite. That's a genuine assessment of an elite player recognizing greatness in another player. And for Parsons to say it, who will have to face him twice a year during the foreseeable future? That means absolutely everything. Parsons isn't the type of guy who says things just to generate headlines. When he evaluates talent, especially opposing talent, he's typically very measured in his comments. The fact that he's willing to put Daniels in the same conversation as Patrick Mahomes tells me that what he saw in those 2 games last year really impacted him profoundly. Let's recall those matchups against Dallas last year, because they were absolutely electric. In the first game, Daniels not only outplayed Dak Prescott statistically, but showed a level of composure and clutch performance you don't usually see in rookies. In high-pressure situations, when Dallas was bringing their best pass rush, Daniels found ways to extend plays and make throws that completely changed the game's momentum. But what really impressed Parsons and all of us were those 5 fourth-quarter comebacks Daniels led during his rookie season. That's not just talent. That's mental toughness. That's leadership. That's that intangible quality that separates good quarterbacks from great quarterbacks. I believe Parsons is being completely honest here, and that honesty is colored by his situation with Dallas. While he's watching a division rival develop a franchise quarterback who's going to terrorize his defense for years, He's stuck in the middle of a bitter negotiation with an organization that apparently doesn't value him the way he believes. He deserves. Daniels' numbers as a rookie were absolutely historic, and Parsons, as an elite defensive player, knows exactly how difficult it will be containing a quarterback with that skill set during his prime years. 3,568 passing yards with 25 touchdowns and only 9 interceptions, plus 891 rushing yards with 6 more touchdowns. Those numbers are impressive by themselves, but when you put them in the context of leading Washington to a 12-5 record and their first NFC Championship game appearance in 33 years, then you're talking about a rookie season that was truly special. But let me tell you about the contract. Drama happening in Dallas because it adds a completely different layer to these comments from Parsons. The 26-year-old pass rusher is entering the 5th-year option of his rookie contract, set to pay him $24 million in 2025, according to Spotric. Parsons is a 4-time Pro Bowler and one of only 2 players in NFL history to record at least 12 sacks in each of his first 4 seasons. Those are numbers that put him in elite company, and he obviously believes his compensation should reflect that elite status. Cowboys owner Jerry Jones claims the team offered a deal that would make Parsons the highest-paid non-quarterback in guaranteed money, but says Parsons' agent, David Maluta, rejected it outright. And here's where things get really juicy because, according to Jones, when they wanted to send the details to the agent told us to stick it where the sun don't shine. That's a direct quote from Jerry Jones, and that tells me these negotiations have reached a level of hostility that's almost unprecedented. For Jerry Jones, who typically tries to maintain a professional veneer in public, to be willing to share those details publicly means he's genuinely frustrated with how the conversations have gone. Following this revelation, Parsons removed all Cowboys references from his social media profiles and replaced them with a Bible verse. Even if I fall, I will rise. The Lord is my light, from the book of Micah. That's not subtle. That's a direct message to the organization and the fans that he's prepared to move on if necessary. On Friday, the situation escalated further when Parsons posted a vintage Allen Iverson quote on TikTok, along with a series of images of him blowing a kiss and waving to the crowd. The quote read, "I'm going to win wherever I go. Wherever I go, I'm going to win. I don't care where I go. I don't give a damn what team I go to. I'm going to win. I'm going to win regardless. It don't matter. You talk about making your teammates better. I'm going to make him better. Just like they name me the MVP. That's what I am. That's what I always felt like I was." That Iverson quote is loaded with meaning. It's not just bravado. It's a declaration of independence from a player who clearly feels undervalued by his current organization. It's also a shot at Jerry Jones and the Cowboys front office, basically saying their success doesn't depend on them giving him what he wants. Parsons formally requested a trade on August 1st, and by all accounts, the situation seemingly hasn't gotten any better. He has not participated in any training camp practices, though he has attended meetings and walkthroughs. That's walking a very thin line between showing up as a professional while also making it clear that he's not fully invested in the current situation. Despite this, first-year head coach Brian Schottenheimer has expressed confidence that Parsons will play in the September 4 opener at Philadelphia. But I have my doubts about whether that's realistic given how entrenched both sides seem to be in their positions. And you know what's the most ironic about all this? While Parsons is praising our quarterback and basically admitting that Washington is building something special, he himself is in the middle of an epic contract drama with Jerry Jones that could potentially weaken one of the best defenses in our division. Now I ask you, doesn't it seem suspicious that Parsons is speaking so well of Daniels just as he's fighting with his own team? I believe this guy is already mentally preparing himself to compete against us for a long time because he knows we're going to be a serious problem in the NFC East. The situation in Dallas is so tense that Parsons erased all Cowboys references from his social media and requested a trade on August 1st. And meanwhile, He's publicly acknowledging our sophomore quarterback has the potential to be the next Mahomes. From a purely football perspective, Parsons recognizing Daniels' potential is validation of what many of us already believed. But from a strategic standpoint, it's also concerning because it means our division rivals are already taking notice of what we're building and are starting the game plan accordingly. I'm telling you, this is music to my ears in a sense because when your most dangerous rival is admitting they're scared of you, it means you're doing things correctly. But it's also a reminder that expectations for Daniels and our team overall are going to be significantly higher this season. The pressure is going to be enormous, especially early in the season. Every game Daniels plays well will be seen as validation of these lofty expectations. Every game he struggles will be scrutinized and analyzed to determine if perhaps these comparisons to Mahomes are premature. Now I want to know what you think about all this. Do you believe Bill Krosky Merritt is going to justify all this confidence they're giving him? Was it wise to trade Brian Robinson for a 6th round? And what do you think about Micah Parsons? Basically admitting that Jaden Daniels is going to haunt him for years? I think all these news point to the same thing. Washington is building something special, and the rest of the division is already realizing it. When you have rivals recognizing your potential and rookies forcing veteran trades, that means the culture is fundamentally changing. If you're part of this Commanders family like I am, let me know in the comments which of these news has you most excited for the season. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, what are you waiting for? We're the #1 source of exclusive Washington news, and this season is going to be full of surprises. Share this video with all your Commanders fan friends because these news need to reach our whole community. We're a family and families. Stay informed together. And remember, hail to the Redskins.